Play with the knobs, man. Play with my knobs. Play with the knobs, man. Play with my knobs. Play with the knobs, man. Play with my knobs.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to take a look.
Can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
Biff, why did the grapefruit go skinny dipping?
Good gracious. Why did the grapefruit go skinny dipping, Jacques?
He found it appealing. Hey, why? You might get this one. What happened when the Jedi licked a toad?
What happened when a Jedi licked a toad, Jacques?
He got Star Wars. Star Wars. Hello, everyone.
We can't afford the rights for that. Yeah.
No. I
keep it short.
I had to stop at bar 6 because once you hit that 8th bar, you got to pay.
That's right.
Because if there's one thing I know is George Lucas and John Williams need the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello, everybody. It is Jacques.
This is Biff.
And before I forget, one of my favorite tweets from Mark Hamill, speaking of that, and he's posted a couple times, and he posted every time. He's like, I'll say it again when somebody will say, have a shot of like props. It's like, hey, if you could take one prop from Star Wars, what would it be? And he always says, George's wallet.
Well, have you ever seen there was a Carrie Fisher special. It was based on her book, but she did a one person tour, kind of doing the material on stage, and she talked about how she sold her rights. And so I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it's called Wishful Drinking.
Yes, I know of it. Yes.
Have you seen it?
I haven't, but I think.
Oh my God.
I think we have it checked off on your watch list or your wanna watch list, either on
it is so good. Oh my, is it? I watched it about 4 times. And I'm not a Star Wars nerd by any means, but it was so good, and so I watched it 4 times. And it's not just Star Wars. So.
No, you're not. But hey, do you know that parsecs is a measurement of distance and not time?
Well, so I don't want to get into the the craziness of it, but actually there is a legitimate way of discussing it, because essentially there's that whole the time distance thing. So basically the idea behind it is that he's bragging about it, that he went so fast that when basically when you go fast, it changes the it has an impact on the distance, right? And so the idea is that he shortened the distance by going so fast. So there was a scientific explanation for it, something of that nature.
So thank you for taking the bait and talking about how you're not a Star Wars nerd, and then went into the weeds. And just to emphasize Biff's point, yes, the YT-1300 light freight cruiser, known as the Millennium Falcon, had such thrust capabilities that he was able to use the gravitational pull of different stars and different planets on the route, slingshotting the Falcon from point A to B to point B to C faster. So that's why he was able to do it in a shorter distance, thus doing it in a shorter period of time. And that concludes this episode of Wow, is Jacques a loser? Next week, actually, speaking of next week, Biff and I just recorded next week's podcast, and I'm not going to say a damn thing about it, Biff, because you hadn't met this person beforehand. But why don't you tell our friends about next week's podcast?
So we're talking about Solly Mullins, and it was an amazing hour of just amazingly interesting person, and certainly very funny and engaging. But let's just say, can we talk about what her so-called?
Yeah, she has two careers.
She has 2 careers, one as a comic and one as an adult film artist. So it was And we did talk, heavy on maybe one side more than the other. You guys, can guess which, side we were more interested in. But such an engaging
Well, the sad thing is, Biff, because it's me and you, we were more interested in the comedy side than the porn side because we're old. But it is. She has a great special called Taking It Sleazy on Amazon Prime. She came on to talk about that. She worked with Joe and I way back in the day when Joe lived in LA. We lived out there for a while together doing comedy stuff and met her. She's a touring road comic who also, produces her own low budget rated R movies and is a Finnish porn actress for the last 20 years. And she's awesome and great. And that was a lot of fun, which is a perfect segue into, we are recording this on the eve of Juneteenth. So as of tomorrow, or as of dropping this podcast 2 days ago, did you have a happy first federally recognized Juneteenth, Biff?
Well, it's one of those situations where, celebrating Juneteenth is, in one way, appropriate, and in another way, kind of there's that sadness factor to it, right? I mean, why do we have to have, to celebrate something that was abolished that shouldn't have been, a thing in the first place, right? I mean, there's that aspect of it, but yeah, absolutely, it's one of those things where, obviously, it's about time, and I'm a relative latecomer to knowing, what this was. I think it wasn't about. I think I probably found out about it maybe 4 years ago, and I guess regionally people had it had been more out in the open in the other areas, but I had no idea until about 4 years ago or so, 4 or 5 years ago maybe. So yeah, it's but great on the current crop of people, and I don't want to go into partisan stuff here because they passed it, and and it's freaking about time, right? So
we'll circle back to this later because it's well overdue. I'll be honest, went to college, minored. I for the first 2 years minored in history. It wasn't until The Watchmen 2 years ago, the TV series The Watchmen on HBO Max, that I knew about the massacre in Tulsa, which led me to learn about Juneteenth and other things. It's the same thing. It's like, look, I got to college before I found out about the Japanese internment camps, and I was embarrassed and ashamed to say that. And it's horrible that I didn't know about this, but we'll talk about not knowing that, later. But before I forget, I want to give a big shout out because
I think we're going to end the podcast.
You know what? Much to people like Joe and All-Star Tommy streams. No, I'm not doing that yet. But tomorrow is my beloved sister's birthday, so big shout out to my sister Cam. And on the day after that is management's birthday, my beloved wife Ellen. Both ironically turning 40 on the same day again.
Coincidentally, it's not ironic.
1 day apart, yeah. Coincidentally, they're both turning.
Did you not watch Reality Bites?
God, that's
hear Ethan Hawke's explanation of what the definition of irony is. Come on,
great soundtrack.
Yeah,
great soundtrack. She wasn't his roommate. I think she lived the apartment next to him. Lisa Loeb's song, and the first song to go #1 by an artist who didn't have a record deal.
And now she's on a Geico commercial.
So huge happy birthday to my sister and beloved wife.
So you're gonna have a big party, or what's the deal? Or
no, you
have a pool and everything. You can have a party.
Well, we are having a party tomorrow. Our friend is having a party. What's great is we have a very nice pool and a very nice yard, and we can barely pay our sons to get in the pool, but our friend's daughter is turning 11, and she's having a party here for her. My wife will have her friends over and have a party.
So you're saying she goes to 11,
and she goes all the way to. But this one, why not just turn up 10 and make 10 the loudest? But she, so the pool is getting used as a party, but sadly not for my wife's birthday or my sister's. But maybe who absolutely knows. Biff, I've talked over the last several months. I've been writing this screenplay that I'm very proud of that I actually just sent out last week. There's a scene in it where I reference one of my TV idols, where I reference one of my true TV heroes, where I reference a guy that Dan Cray, Beyond It, and I recorded a song in 92, and we reference this gentleman. And I was told by a few people, you know what? That's a dated reference. People won't know who it is. You should change it to XYZ. And I drew a line in the sand, and I said, damn it, Herb Tarlick means way too much to me. And if people don't get the reference, well, they don't fucking deserve to read my script. Is what I said to myself inside, but I did. I had a couple people who were like, dude, that's from the 70s. No one's going to know who he is. Sadly, the actor Frank Bonner passed this week, who played Herb Tarlick. And when I see the outpouring on Twitter and in the news, it's like, you know what? I was right. People do know who the great Herb Tarlick is. I'm glad I held my guns. I'm going to be honoring Herb Tarlick with both the song that we're going out with. It's a song called Bookends that we recorded that reference Herb Tarlick in a loving, glowing way. And at one point, Joe and I had a self-indulgent theater in which the words to the WKRP theme song was customized for Carnival personnel. But, you know, this week's celebrity passing is Frank Boner, better known as Herb Tarlick, the sales manager from WKRP in Cincinnati, and the future, hopefully, big screen reference. and
you know,
movie Killing Rem.
Like in fairness, right? You know, it's the kind of things that can happen, because when Weezer put Henry Winkler and the Fonz character into their Buddy Holly video, right? And that was a reference that obviously, you know, nobody, under, our age range had any idea what that was about, but you put it out there and suddenly, yeah, it could happen.
So it is. It's funny because the script just officially went out. I was kind of waiting on a last set of notes, but in my head, I said I wanted to get it out June 1st. My birthday was on the 11th, and the one main person I really wanted to get in the hands of, I did. I'm like, you know what? I did one more run through and I sent it out. But the Herb Tarlick reference stands. I stand by it, and I'm happy I did. Also, this week, I don't want to jinx anything. Not that I believe in jinxing things, but our future sideshow guest, Ronick, who runs the production company, I almost said her old production company, Tremendous Entertainment. Just this past week, I got my finalized, fully executed shopping deal contract about a show that she and I created that we got Greg Grunberg to be the host of.
Nice.
And hopefully the shopping of that process starts, within the next couple of weeks. So
that is awesome. Dude, good luck. Best of luck with that.
I honestly, the wife and I keep trying to find ways to come home. like you know what I mean? We
Oh, so you're going back to what? Turkey? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Korea, Qatar. No, it's like, so somewhere between Manhattan Beach and Santa Monica, and that, with from the street in, like home for us is that 8 miles of road that we don't have to cross a road to get to the beach. Like, that is the dream, to get back to there. And as you've seen, I've graciously offered to let a friend of ours who will remain nameless buy a house that I'm happy to live in and take care of for him out of the goodness of my heart, if it gets me back there. But no, I'm hoping like a project like this, because, we have to have something big to bring us back. Maybe that's it. But, as far as production goes, it's kind of been a shitty week in the world of reality show production.
Yeah. So, that little slip and slide show with Ron Funches and what was the other? There was somebody else on the show. But anyway, yeah. And NBC reality show kind of took a little pause when it turns out that there was some parasites in the waters that was being used for the slip and slide. That is kind of the central thing to the show. I don't know how the show works, but all I know is that I would say just go on the internet and look for news articles with the term explosive diarrhea, because apparently that was at the heart of this cancellation.
Was the article written by an 8-year-old on the Onion, Biff, or was this a real thing?
Well, so like, once again, hard to tell the difference between the onions and the real stuff, but I think it was quoting somebody from the show describing the situation, and of course, since it's a direct quote, put it on the headline. Of course you do.
I think it was like from cast and crew, something like 18 or 19 people suffered uncontrollable explosive diarrhea.
Like,
oh, you get through COVID, you get all the COVID protocols set up on set, and then you don't filter the water. Biff, I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. I love Marvel comics. I love Marvel movies. I love DC movies. And I think it's safe to say that Zack Snyder is pretty much an entrenched, well-versed, well-respected producer and director of DC product. Yes?
Sure, whatever. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, he's done The Watchmen. He's done 300. He's done a lot of stuff that, the Justice League and anyway. So when Zack Snyder posts on Twitter that Batman eating pussy is part of DC canon, I think that ends the debate whether Batman goes down or not.
What? Why are we talking about this? like, do you really think I give a crap? I mean, really, do you think
our listener really does? And so, if anyone, I'll bring him up to speed. John, what ended up happening is there was a big debate. There's a show on HBO Max. It's an animated show based on Harley Quinn, and she's great. It's a mature. It's an NC-17 animation, which kills the boys. My kid's 13 and 11. It's like, why can't I watch this? It's like, well, I don't even know if I'm mature enough to watch this. But there was a scene coming up in season 3 in which Batman goes down on Catwoman that. Not the censors, because it's on HBO Max. You have to pay to see it, and they're like, "Yeah, that's too much for us," which caused the great debate of, does Batman and as my wife, when she weighed in, says, why do you think the cowl only covers from his nose up? Of course he does, but when Zack Snyder weighed in this week, and at least. It's one of those things where the first 5 people who sent it to me, I'm like, oh, this is cool. The second 500 people like, Jacques, have you seen this? Zack Snyder says it's like, yeah, okay, I get it, and I believe it. But I think it puts an end to that. Biff, this is a big week for you to drive the podcast. There's a lot going on in the land of the rising sun, starting with, by the time we record our next podcast, the Olympics will be underway.
Yes, so they say, right? I mean, it is kind of funny that the polls are still showing a lot. More than half of the people are against, proceeding with this. Just because, and it's the government's fault for not having everything under control. The people were kind of, by and large, I mean, they were good about wearing masks, but they're at a point where they're dealing with the fatigue, but. The government rollout of the vaccine has been really, really sad in terms of just the logistics weren't there. The capacity, isn't there. So, yeah, I mean, they're still going to be in vaccination mode throughout the entirety of the Olympics. And so that's why, a lot of the people there are kind of against it. So
well, I heard 10,000 volunteers have backed out.
Yeah, and that's been an ongoing thing where and the volunteers have backed out for a variety of reasons, but yeah, I mean it's just their inability to secure, provide safety for these people, and it's a kind of I think there's a certain level of the stance that they took in terms of not letting certain people to jump the gun, but I mean they're still working on the elderly people right now, in June, and this is 2 months after I got my turn, right? And and of course, go ahead and make my Biff is an old man jokes, all you want, but I'm still not eligible in Japan.
to sidebar for a second, just last week, my wife showed me that like Kate Middleton, the future Queen of England, just got her first vaccination the day after. The day after our 13-year-old got his second vaccination.
Right.
And we're like, wait a minute, if he's fully vaccinated by the time you're getting to that. Yeah, but back in Japan, I know it's been a huge thing where, tourists weren't going to be allowed to come to the Olympics.
No, yeah.
And like, look, when you and I went to the Olympics in Vancouver in 2010, I mean, it was so well organized because almost on every corner you had a person or 2 or 3 people wearing the jackets, having maps, having schedules in their pockets of like, oh, you want to go here, you want to go. I mean, that Olympics in Vancouver was so well run because of that army of volunteers. I wonder if in Tokyo, if it's going to be, if the volunteers backing out isn't that big of a deal because there's not as many tourists and it's more local people going, or is it going to hamper the Olympic experience for those who get to go?
Yeah, well, and the difference between Canada and Japan being a lot of the people, going to Canada, spoke the language. A lot of the people going to Japan, aren't speaking the language. And to some degree, the Japanese can navigate English, to a point, but you're still going into, as my wife would put it, a foreign country, So, yeah. So I think it's going to be tough for anybody who is visiting. And obviously that's, I think the thing that's going to be a problem is that whatever plan that they had probably doesn't have the capacity to react to such a change in resources. So, it's going to be a logistics nightmare.
Given if the government was able to make the decision, do you think they would push it again till next year? Because the IOC said, nope, it's being held. Period. The end. It's not open for discussion. The Olympic people were the ones that are flat out saying it's going ahead.
Yeah.
And I wonder if how much, because there's no way you don't make money on the Olympics. I mean, we've talked about that a number of times. I think the 96 Winter Olympics in the U.S. was the last time the Olympics weren't in the red. And that's because the infrastructure was already there when they hosted it. But documentary after documentary about how the cities, the year after, 2 years, 4 years after a World Cup or an Olympic, they're still digging out from the debt. They didn't get the return on investment. Now they have these monstrosities of stadiums that will never get used again. And with Tokyo not even having the benefit of tourism to kind of weigh against that, I do. I feel for the city and for the country as a whole, who's really just going to take a bath on this.
Well, so Japan, Tokyo. I mean, it's for one thing, it's not the Tokyo's first Olympics, right? So it's their second one, and so that helps. And they didn't do the kind of large scale construction that other recent Olympics had done. So in that sense, they're not going to have that part of, and I think that probably plays into a lot of people's sentiments, right? The idea of taking a bath. They ended up doing a lot of things that they were hoping to do anyway, but now they've been forced into doing it. But so lots of infrastructure projects, but it's not like these. We're not going to be dealing with a lot of these useless venues like the other ones.
The other places have. Yeah. Biff, I don't know where I heard this week, and I'm racking my brains. It's a stupid topic to bring up. We could talk about it for 10 seconds or just move on. Is 8 a lucky number in Japan?
8 is a lucky number, definitely in China, and I think to some degree it is in Japan. All I can tell you is that 4 is unlucky. So.
Really?
Yeah,
because when I heard that, it's like, no, you people are wrong. 7's a lucky number.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, so if you go to like a lot of the elevators in Japan don't have or not a lot of the buildings in Japan don't have the 4th floor, right? So on the elevator, yeah.
Interesting. Like here, it's like the 13th. So number 4 is like 13.
Yeah, but I mean, it's more, it has there's a lot of meaning to it. It sounds like it's a homonym for the word, one of the words of that say death, and it's also the structure of the number looks like the character death. So there's a whole kinds of things involved in it. Yeah.
So stay tuned for the sideshow in which we do a deep dive into the number 4.
No, we're not going to do. No, we are not going to do that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, people want to know. People also want to know what's the whole deal with driving without a license in Japan.
Well, it really has to do with driving without a license for a specific type of a vehicle. So it turns out that if you drive an electric kickboard, so those are one of those, little, essentially it's like little skateboards with a little handle, but it's has got a motor on it. If you drive that on the city's roads, you actually need a license in Japan, which is like crazy talk, but true. So
well, no, I mean, I know in Florida and certain look, the golf cart is the way of transportation for a lot of people in Florida because so many people who drive in Florida are in their teens. 113, 114.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
But you have to have them register it, license plate, all the. But was funny on the clip that you sent. It was just funny because Tokyo. I assume it was Tokyo.
That was Osaka. It was Osaka.
Okay,
but yeah.
Major city, and these people are driving down a road that should be covered with cars, and they look like the Silver Surfer just on a completely empty roadway.
Yeah.
And again, the news stories. Try to remind me, or I'll try to remind you to post a link. What I love about these news stories that Biff sends me is the way they're shot, the dramatic way of the 30-second, it almost looks like an infomercial for these scooters, the way it pans across the wheel slowly up the head. It's like it's this $100 scooter. Yep. But the way they shoot these very dramatic news pieces.
Yeah. I love the fact that they still do reenactments. I think in the U.S. in general, the reenactments only occur on those Dateline shows and stuff like that, right? They don't do reenactments on just regular news segments.
No, never.
No.
They find some local asshole who got to the scene 10 minutes after it happens, and it's like, Earl, tell us what you think went down.
Yeah. So
and then they move on.
Wait, before we go, so I see on our rundown what the next thing up is. So one of the things that, and we talked with Sally earlier, one of the things I didn't get to do during that session because we ran out of time was, I wanted to run that, our little quiz with her.
Oh, right. Damn it.
It was unfortunate. It's all right. It's all right. It's one of those. So maybe we'll try to do it. We'll try to do it interactively, on the social media and tag her and see if she can play the game. But, I have another edition of, Find a Porn Star.
I'm ready. I'm ready this time.
All right.
I'm not going to overthink it. Last time I overthought it.
All right. So this, you seeing the screen right now? Do you see 4?
Yep.
All right. So, I forgot to put numbers on them, but, which one do you think is the porn?
Top
right. This one.
Right. Yep. Right.
Top right. Yeah. Because you saw the cleavage.
Yep.
Said top right. Right.
I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There's that same woman in the same outfit shredding on the guitar.
Just killing it.
Just killing it. Yeah. This is Saki, the lead guitarist from the band Mary's Blood, and also Nemophila, one of my favorite Japanese metal bands out right now. But yeah.
Oh, so I'm 0 for 1. Okay.
0 for 1.
So the one on the top left, that looks like a Halloween outfit. The one on the bottom left looks like she's going to an anime festival. So yep. I'm going to go bottom right.
Bottom right. This one right here.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I gotta say that, you're really loving the guitarists because.
Oh, that's awesome. Playing the Flying V. Look at that.
That's not just a Flying V. That's her custom model with her custom shape. So this is Toki, the guitarist from Aldius. It's a twin guitar, Japanese metal, female metal band. So yeah, once again, you're liking the guitarist. So doing a great job.
Okay, so I'm going to go with the anime girl with the pink hair in the bottom right.
On the bottom left. This one.
Left. Yep.
Yeah. So this is so amazing that so here's her doing a little TV show. She's actually a TV announcer, and here she's just doing a little special, one of those random programs. So once again, You missed it.
And it was the same placement. It was the girl in the top left, the last one who had the glasses on. Okay, so
you know what the worst part of it is? The worst part of it is it's the same actress that I used the last time.
You are such a dick.
So you managed to, not only, screw up this entire thing, get it as wrong as you possibly could, but I gave you the same actress in the exact same position.
Oh man. Oh. On this week of Jacques Can't Tell People Apart.
But this is why I wanted, obviously because, I wanted to see if a trained professional, could, do better.
I mean, the first one that I picked with the band photo cleavage shot, it's like, come on. I guarantee you when you post it, if you did it as a poll, it's like most people are going to say, "Oh, it's her." I guarantee.
Well, we'll give it. We'll see how it goes, right? We'll see how it goes.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you softened up by having something fun before we get into this week in treason. Biff,
yeah.
How is William Barr and Jeff Sessions not in jail for? I mean, and look again. I'll ask you because you're more level-headed. You have a kind of a different take on it. But truly, when word came out this week that, they were spying on the family members of Adam Schiff, during the first impeachment hearing, who was like the head of the, impeachment committee in Congress, and that the DOJ had been like unlawfully tapping phone lines and subpoenaing Apple to get his family's. I
mean, this is Nixon stuff, right? I mean, right? This literally is Nixon stuff. I don't even know where to go with a lot of these things anymore. I guess all I would say is that I'd like somebody to explain to me, why like the there is no actual investigation, and then whatever the prosecution process is, right? Why is none of that happening, or is it happening and we just don't know? So I'm it's like,
I don't want I'm an alarmist. I don't want to be an alarmist all the time, but it's like, maybe there's something going on that that they're not going to tip their hat that there's an investigation. But I will say, for a month, the naive, stupid Democrats were negotiating with Mitch McConnell about the terms for putting a January 6th commission together.
Right.
And then they pull the plug and say, no, we're not going to do this. But then on the other hand, the big story this week is, it was a false flag operation put on by the FBI. And you actually have senators who voted against investigating January 6th going public and saying, we need to get to the bottom of this. It's like they're playing both sides. And of course, their people are eating it up. I truly worry about not the election in 18 months and Joe Manchin not getting on board with voter rights. I really don't know how we get through the real inauguration coming up in August without things going from really bad to really worse, because they are quadrupling down on, not only did January 6th not happen, what did happen was FBI. And now you actually have Congress people calling for the two things. You had Congress people who wouldn't even shake hands with the Capitol Police, who truly saved their lives, calling for the trial of the Capitol Police who shot that woman trying to come through the window.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm at a point where things are so like away from what I consider to be like kind of reality for whatever. I don't know how to even say it, but I just don't know how to react to these things anymore. Right? It's just so like unreal. January 6th didn't happen. It was a field trip. We don't need to investigate it. Hey, the FBI hosted hosted January 6th. They were behind it. Why aren't we investigating it? It's just I don't know where to go with this anymore.
But it is. It's funny because I was watching a clip and Mike Lindell hosted one of these big rallies in the middle of
right. Yeah,
almost. And when he actually did a news hit with the guy from the Daily Show. He's like,
Acosta, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, okay, so where is what happens if the inauguration doesn't happen and Lindell walks away? And like I've said before, it's like, at one point the Mayans might have said to the shaman, it's like, hey, this is the third time that you said the world was going to end and we needed to sacrifice our virgin children. And where's the end of the world, man? It's like you're going to the volcano next.
We kind of need the kind of commitment that the Hail Bop guys had. Is that what you're saying?
100%. So I'm just going to preface the self-indulgent theater by saying once again, the passing of the great Herb Tarlick this week. Here it is from like a year ago. The Carnival personnel bastardized WKRP in Cincinnati.
There's more to East Financial District Home Office. Now that's it.
Baby, if you've ever wondered what became of Joe and me, we're living on the air at Carnival Personnel Podcast, CPP. Listen to Jacques' incoherent yapping while Joe can quote a movie line by line. They may have no idea what they're talking about, but all in all they still sound pretty fine. It's Carnival Personnel, the CP Podcast.
Okay, Biff, so as you know, there is no God. Life has no meaning. Existence is a blank, empty void because the Bruins were eliminated from the playoffs. But I've heard rumors, I've heard whisperings, and I've seen the text messages. Apparently, hockey found a way to keep marching forward after the Bruins were eliminated. Is this true?
Yeah, whatever, dude. I mean, seriously.
Is it so? So it's true. The playoffs have continued.
It is so good right now. I tell you, the hockey is so good. So, I think that, not to put you through this the next time, because, by the, well, maybe, by the next time I think we still may be in the finals.
Yeah, we'll be in the finals, yeah.
Yeah, we'll make this the last NHL update, and for two reasons. Number one is that I think both of our predictions, before the playoffs, the end result just sucks. So, did you have anybody coming out of?
Yeah, I had the Bruins and the Avalanche in the finals.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and I had the Avalanche over the Hurricanes. I have one team left from my prediction in the Final Four, and it's the New York Islanders. And if the New York Islanders, but I didn't have them winning the Stanley Cup or anything. So, yeah, my prediction is, is garbage, and as is many people's predictions. So, that's as far as I think I need to go. But I think the only thing I'll say is that it's kind of hilarious that in NBC's last year, where they given so much crappy coverage, they potentially might have the worst Stanley Cup matchup in like I don't know, I can't even think of a worse Stanley Cup matchup ever. Because if the Islanders and the Canadiens make it to the finals, it's going to be an absolute ratings disaster in this country.
Oh, right. I mean, well, either way, yeah, two East Coast teams, Northeast teams, literally it harkens back to the original 6 or the original 12, where, right. It's really a regional thing. And I'll tell you, the me of many, many years past would have just been disgusted and appalled and not been able to come to grips with the Canadians. But honestly, I think that article that Taylor sent us about our former king, being in a Habs jersey, it's like, honestly, I got a rooting interest for the Habs, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, there are players on every team that I like, even the the so-called defending champion, Tampa Bay Lightning. That I don't. There's no need to root for the defending champ, but I don't. I used to be a real anti-Habs guy for many reasons, but I've softened up a lot in regards to that in the recent years, and definitely having Tyler Toffoli there helps a lot. So it's kind of funny though. I'm like Tyler Toffoli and Corey Perry on that team. It's like, oh, what?
And,
what?
Well, it's funny because it's like you've pointed out a number of times, and we won't get that into the weeds because there are a couple people who don't play hockey who listen to us. The people in Detroit who kind of had the opportunity to keep, one of their greatest heroes of the last 50 years of hockey in the fold, who kind of, had to go to the Siberia of hockey by way of Tampa Bay, who now seems to be one of the best GMs in hockey in a long time.
Well, yeah. I mean, and so, I guess that's the thing with Steve Yzerman. Yeah. That's the thing with the promise that he's showing, right? Because he has the track record in Tampa. So the idea is that he's going to, rebuild that, Red Wings franchise, and we'll see how it goes. They haven't been very lucky in the draft, but speaking of unlucky in the draft, hey, did you see the article about how the 2015 draft ruined your Bruins?
Yeah. Well, and it is. It's one of those things where I'll be honest. Like last week, I talked about how I'm recovering from sports radio, but I still drive by sports radio's house late at night sometimes and wonder if they're thinking of me. I actually this week took them off my preset in the car.
Yeah, good for you.
Like literally, it's like, dude, there's one morning show on one of the two stations that is entertaining. That's not always sports, but you know what? I don't need to hear any of this. So I did. I'm just like, I don't need this. I do. I will. If I'm doing something in the kitchen, I'll throw the NHL Network on in the background and catch highlights, because I'm not gonna watch games. I'll watch like maybe the last cup game if it's a clinching game. If somebody's up 3-1 or something like that, I'll tune in the third period. But you're right. I mean, the skill level. First of all, there was no bad teams in the playoffs. I mean, people who still hold on to everybody makes the playoffs. It's like, dude, no. That's when there were 21 teams and 16 teams made the playoffs. Yeah, you would have the Norris Division winner coming in at sub 500. But hockey is
it's not just that though. Like the overall level of play is just the players are just so good now. I mean, that's the big difference, right? And because a lot of the goonery has been eliminated from the league, you don't have those tripods on the ice anymore. Everybody can skate. Everybody can shoot. Everybody can stick handle. That's the thing. I mean,
even the fourth line quote unquote grinders.
Yeah.
They'll come out of the corner, go through two people's sets of legs, make a tape-to-tape pass, and another fourth line, quote-unquote, grinder top shelves.
Yeah, it's impressive. There's a guy named Matt Martin who you may have noticed on the Islanders, and when he was a Leaf, he was a fighter. He evolved into a guy who legitimately can he is like maybe the cheap man's poor man's Ryan Reeves, but he's one of those guys that but yeah.
So the next topic that was always Joe's bread and butter, that video games and game shows.
Yeah.
I've been known to dabble a little bit in the video game realm myself, but this week, Biff, it's you.
Well, it wasn't me, but I mean, it was just one of those random. Didn't you send me the thing?
I did send you the thing because I saw the screen grab and it looked awesome.
Yeah, so you sent me this whatever tweet in Japanese and said and the funny thing is that you tweeted out to me asking me to translate, and some dude did all the actual literal translation for me. It's like, okay, that's cool, but I think the thing that he did miss was that the audience probably understood that this was actually a promotion for a Godzilla phone app. It's a video game, in Japan, right? So the idea is that this is kind of their kind of announcement of, okay, it's finally out, right? And then in conjunction with that, they have a collaboration with like one of the the TV shows. So I think it's they brought in Jaguar into it. So yeah, and it turns out that I presumed it would be a Japan only game, but yeah, it's actually available in the US. So I've downloaded it. I haven't really played it too much, but
I follow some kaiju pages and some Godzilla pages because I'm me, and so I get more Japanese content sometimes in my feed than most people who look like me. But I saw this game. It looked, like I said, the screen caps looked really interesting. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just at Biff on this, and maybe he can tell me, what the hell's going on. But it was funny that somebody else jumped in. But so I can get the game, and it's also in English.
I presume it's also available on the App Store. It's available on my Android. So there you go.
Do you know? Fun,
and it's in English, by the way. It's in English.
Fun sidebar here because it's based on a Godzilla animated series, correct?
Right.
When the first animated series came here, maybe 20 years ago, there was like a 200 episode run.
Right.
In Japan. Yeah. Our friend, Mr. Latham, will tell you. Remember, he bought a house. It was like a castle at one point.
Okay.
He bought that because it was cheaper to hire him to redo the music, for the American audience. So
interesting.
100% backed on the music that he wrote and composed for the Godzilla cartoon and the late 90s. Early 2000s here. So I wonder if they called him back. We should, maybe reach out to friend of Jimmy to get in contact.
Well, let's see. Maybe we could just, if you want to contact them, great. But maybe I'll just do a search on the internet.
That's true too. So are you watching anything good these days other than hockey? I don't know if the last time. So because now we're no longer doing the back-to-back games. When on one of the nights when the games ended early, and then we had a couple of nights last week when it was after the series, the series ended and the semifinals haven't started. I managed to get in 4 more episodes of The Mandalorian. Thank you very much. Oh, fantastic! Where are you?
It's like episode 10 of season 1.
Okay, yeah, so you're still season 1. Yeah,
just about ending the season 1. I think
it's great.
Yeah. It is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yes, it's biased. Yes, I like almost every Star Wars thing out there. Yes, I like almost every Marvel thing out there. But honestly, The Mandalorian has been amazing. The new spin-off of the Clone Wars, The Bad Batch, is really, really good. But for me, I'm caught up on the HBO Max show Hacks, which is a really fun show about, a legendary Vegas comic.
Right.
I'm caught up on the Apple TV Plus show Mythic Quest, which is about it's the Office inside World of Warcraft, basically.
Right. Yeah. I saw the trailers for that.
Instead of taking place Dunder Mifflin selling paper, it was the Office filmed inside World of Warcraft. It is great. But the new thing that I'm watching, honestly, it's only 2 episodes in, but Marvel is 3 for 3 with their Phase 2 in the TV realm. WandaVision was amazing. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was educational and amazing, and Loki is holy fuck. It's great.
I think that nobody expected Loki to suck, right? I mean, you have such a great premise and you have such a great character and you have such a great actor. I mean, it's like, you can't screw that one up. I mean, I think obviously the WandaVision is the one where that's the risk that they took, right?
They really rolled. And the thing is, they took such a risk and right out of the gate. They're not like, okay, well, we're going to try this or this. They didn't start with Loki. They started with the most left field.
Yep, absolutely. But so that's one. I was more interested to watch that than the rest of my family was, because I just thought, and obviously, seeing the premise of it, I'm thinking, I'm a kid of that era's TV, right? So, in that sense, I just wanted, I wanted to see that aspect of it, right? There's a nostalgia piece to it, right?
It's interesting because, WandaVision was fucked up in the most awesome, great ways.
Yeah.
And it took 3 or 4 episodes before you realized what the hell's going on. I mean, it wasn't all over the map. It wasn't like they were trying to figure it out. It was very deliberate in its craziness. Yeah. Falcon and Winter Soldier. I mean, everybody knows that at one point the Falcon replaced Steve Rogers and became Captain America. And this is the story of, why person that Steve Rogers himself came back through time to hand the shield to and say, look, you're the next Captain America. And it like I said, the first couple episodes of that was a spandex, tights, capes punching bad guys in the face show, continuation. But then it takes this, this Juneteenth, Tulsa, systematic racism, Tahiti Airmen, turn where you're like, holy shit, I'm loving superheroes, and I'm also learning a shitload. And it was a lot deeper. It was great. Loki, I'm not giving anything away. You've seen the greatest movie ever, Endgame. When they go back in time to New York and Loki accidentally gets hold of the Tesseract and disappears.
Right.
This picks up seconds later. like you knew he was going to survive somehow. But again, it's like, okay, I know Loki's going to be great. I know they're going to start when Loki picked up the Tesseract. But what happens after that? Unless you were in the writer's room and had signed a non-disclosure agreement, you don't have any fucking idea where it's going. And it's so good. So, but I'm now a prisoner of, oh, fuck. It comes out on Wednesday night or Tuesday nights, like 3 a.m. I got to stay off social media until the wife comes home, and hopefully we can watch it Wednesday. But if we can't watch it till Thursday and Friday, I got to do a lockdown so I don't get any spoilers. But no, it is great. It is great. Highly recommend. And
isn't the Black Widow coming out soon, or is that out? Or
that's coming out. That is on last week when we went through, or 2 weeks ago. Last week when we went through our movie list. That I think is probably the first or second I'm going to go in the theater and see it.
Yep.
And what's interesting is the movie, as you might have known, replaced directors halfway through. And,
I didn't hear that. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of a time's up, move on kind of.
Okay.
And what's really interesting, go online and look at the movie poster before with the first director that they were going to release and after. And lo and behold, they're going to focus on Scarlett Johansson's character being super smart, being a badass, of course, being attractive. I mean, being a Russian female spy and using your sexuality to infiltrate X, Y, or Z is part of it. But it's just the poster alone, tonal differences of, okay, it's more than hanging a piece of ass out the, a butcher putting a piece of ass in front of the shop window and playing up on that. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing, because I think that's the first big phase 2. I don't know if it's a phase 2 or how, but yes, I'm looking forward to that. Biff, do you have any parenting tips for this week?
Absolutely none. How about you?
Last week I talked that, my little guy is starting to like baseball, and
right. Yep.
School vacation starts in earnest this week, and so does his jam-packed schedule of, I signed him up for summer baseball as he won.
Okay.
He hated baseball, didn't want to do it. It's stupid. They lost the championship game yesterday. And,
bummer, but
dude, it was a good bad thing because luckily they outplayed the whole game. Like, it wasn't, you know what I mean? It's one of those sports things where they beat this team twice in the regular season. Fun fact, those runs don't carry over to this game. And but he was in tears, which it killed me when he came over to me and he puts his head, but I'm like, dude, you got to get back out there for the team meeting. Like, you know what I mean? And he and I'm like, and as my wife said, it's like, well, if he didn't care, he wouldn't be like, in that. So
yeah.
So it's a tough lesson. It was one of those parenting things where it's like, I just want to hold him and tell him it's okay and let him cry at me. But he has to be back out there with the team. And every guy who's not going to win the Stanley Cup this time around, wants their dad to throw their arms around him and tell him it's going to be okay. But they first got to get through that handshake line, and it's one of those moments. But, my parenting thing is I've also signed him up for flag football on Saturdays. He's doing baseball. We're going to start. He wants to start, maybe doing hockey in the fall. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to find some sick times to get out there. So my parenting tip is if you don't want them to be on the fucking screens all summer long, you don't be on the fucking screens all summer long, and get out there and do the shit with them. So my parenting tip is, get the fuck out there, you fat ass. And
there you go.
And do it.
There you go.
Biff, before I let you take over, the ending song, Bookend, Beyond It, 1992, it references again the late, great Herb Tarlick. And I turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I think I'd like to, backtrack and start talking about my projected expansion draft roster for the Seattle Kraken. Because I know everybody wants to hear about that. So one thing with about the Kraken, and everybody knows that the GM is Ron Francis, and don't forget.
Mindless mass has got the season's trends. I'm tired of apologizing, trying to make amends. I colored all the pages so I know how this book ends.